This is
So
step 2. Let's do it.
let's do this, right? So, okay, so mail merging, right, doesn't work. That's not being personal.
You can't mail merge engagement, right?
No,
That's
you can't, right? Yeah, you can't mail merge engagement. Absolutely. Absolutely. Even if you kind of mix up the words, right? I remember, years ago that there was these marketing spinners that would take like 6 paragraphs and you get 3 of them and the personal first name. Dear Phil, here's 3 of the 6 crappy paragraphs that I would get. Just add water, right? Employee engagement doesn't work. Okay. So instead, personal. That means we have to listen. That means we have to do things that get people to share. And it starts with being human. So I'm going to give you 3 H's that folks can use for employee engagement. First one is to be human. And that means you have to go first as a leader. You have to be vulnerable first as a leader. Really, really important, because if we don't make it safe for people to share, they're not. So we have to be human first. The second is we have to be helpful. We have to be helpful. Now, this is not some schlock like I'm going to help you because it's what you need and I'm a leader. No. What I mean is we have a conversation. I say, Anna, I know that, I've been a decent leader to you. Maybe I've been a really bad leader. Maybe I've been a really good leader, but I know that I've led you for a while. And I recognize I've never sat down and spent 30 minutes with you. So when can we spend 15, 20, 30 minutes together that we can talk about you, about what's important to you, about what matters to you, about your family, about your pets, about your career goals, about what really matters to you. And that's helpful, because then what's going to happen is I'm going to come up with a list of things that I could do to help. And I'm going to say, Anna, I've got 3 or 4 or 5, 10 things I could do that could help you. Which one would you like me to do first? And sometimes it really is just listen. Sometimes it really is just listen, right? Hey, boss, I'm not ready to make a move right now. Hey, boss, I'm not ready to take that on right now. But in my career, those would be things that matter to me. So I'm human, I'm helpful. And the last one is often the hardest one for leaders because it's the one that's been beat out of us. And that's humble. That means you have to admit you don't know everything as a leader. And that's really hard. That means you have to take training too. That means you have to get coaching too. That means you have to get feedback too. Not these anonymous crappy 360s, and flip that around, and not just sitting at the boardroom and letting your team take shots at you. It's neither one of those is correct. What is correct is after you help, after you're human, then you say, okay, well, the next meeting, we're going to make it more about me. And I'd like you to give me feedback. And I'm just going to listen. And then you really have to listen. You have to say, okay, just like I did with that conversation with you, if you're my direct report, now you have that conversation with me. And now I say, great, well, I heard here's 7 things I can improve on. Which one would make the biggest impact for you, for our team, and maybe even for our company? And then I'm going to get started on that one right away.
This is such good advice, Phil. And listen, guys, Phil's been a friend for a while. You were on my long form podcast, Build High Performing Teams. Amazing episode. I think that was the first one I recorded.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you were my first guest on there. Thank you for coming on here. But this is like in microbits, we're giving you such good stuff, guys. And I'm looking at like human, helpful, and humble. It all led me to this statement in my head, Phil, of it can be about the connection of asking, what do you need? And then making the offer and then agreeing what you're going to prioritize. That to me was what was really powerful. So leaders, if you have found yourself maybe feeling sucky as a leader, because even I have, and I think I'm a pretty good leader, but feeling pretty sucky during COVID with the stress, ask my favorite question. What could I be doing better or differently? But what I love is then what you've added on there is make the list and then prioritize better, or prioritize together. What should I be doing? And get their feedback. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah. And then don't forget to report back, right? Don't forget to report back as you make those changes. Let people know, hey, Anna, when you suggested this, here's what I did. I really appreciate you being vulnerable with me and sharing that. And I just want to let you know, I'm still not there yet, but I'm working on it. And here's the steps that I've taken. And it's been really helpful. Thank you a lot. And again, most of the time we hear, oh, as a leader, we have to be the all-knowing, all-powerful Oz. Well, that's not true anymore. It's not true, right? I'm not saying you can suck, to be clear, but I am saying it's okay that you need training too. It's okay you need coaching too. It's okay you have work to do. Heck yes, we all do, right? The emperor has to have some clothes too. We can't be naked out there. That's just silly. So
Right.
just acknowledge it, right? I mean, your whole team's thinking it anyway. Hey, doofus Phil, you know you need work, dude. Why aren't you not acknowledging it? So just be open to that, and really then remember to report back. Let them know.
I think what leaders don't realize is that when they do that, they're going to get this really great feedback on how they could get better, but then they're going to get even better behavior out of their people, because their people now go, oh, they want to get better. Okay, now I'm going to get better. It's a reciprocal thing. And I just think it's so powerful. So great tips, Phil. So we got through advice. What other leaders in this culture and people space would you want to recognize, or maybe even as a potential guest on the podcast?
So for a long time, I've followed Lisa Hanneberg. Lisa writes mostly fiction now. But growing up as a leader 15, 20 years ago when I got started, Lisa wrote a book called High Impact Middle Management that really shaped a lot of my thinking, and then wrote a lot of stuff on management craft, the really craft of management. That was really powerful. David Zinger was my co-author at Slacker Manager when I used to write there. And David pushed me and encouraged me all the time. And I would also be remiss if I didn't talk about Rosa Say. She wrote a book called Managing with Aloha, which is all about the Hawaiian values and how to include that, right? Ho'ohana, our family. If you're a Lilo and Stitch fan, you know Ohana means family, right? Family means nobody is left behind. And Rosa really led that movement. And then last but not least, I would say, Kevin Eikenberry and Wayne Trammell are doing some cool stuff with long distance leadership, long distance teammates. I talked to Wayne last week, just personally. He's a buddy of mine. And I talked with him and he said, hey, dude, we're almost done with the long distance teammate book, which, right, if we combine long distance teammate with the long distance leader, now we've got something amazing. And then if I may add one more, it'd be Tom Peters. Tom's been all about people his whole life. Tom's been on my show a couple times. I'm a huge fan of Tom. He talks people first, right? When he wrote In Search of Excellence with Waterman back in '81, changed the game. He's even more all over it now, 40 years later. And he's even stronger in his messaging, and someone that I have massive respect for.
Didn't he also write Community? Did you read his book Community, Tom Peters?
I don't know.
I'm like you. I followed him. I'm just looking at this right now live. Maybe he didn't. Community. I'll have to look back up because I feel like I followed Tom for a long time, and then I feel like I read a book by either him or somebody related to him called Community. So I'll drop that in the notes for whoever's interested. Those are great suggestions. Thank you, Phil. Sure. Last question, another maybe resource question, which is like, what are your favorite resources, whether it's a book or a podcast, an article, a thought leader, somebody who improves your own journey as a practitioner in the culture and people space?
Oh boy. Yeah, that's a good question. So I read, I like the tech side too. So I listen to Sarah, Sarah White now. I think it's Sarah Warner, I want to say. She's married to Jake. Sarah Brennan. I'm So Sarah on Twitter. Sarah's fantastic. Acceler is her company. So I've followed Sarah for a long, long time. She's really, really smart on the technical side, so we can plug that tech into the culture, right? That's who I read. Of course, I follow your stuff, Anna, and you know that. I've read pretty much everything you've done, and I value it a lot. Really, really helpful, of course. And then around the kind of the idea of love in the workspace, Steve Farber is someone that I follow a lot too. Farber. He wrote, his last book is called Love is Just Damn Good Business, which is really, really a great book. His book, Greater Than Yourself, is a game changer as well. And then he wrote, some other books as well, Radical Leap and Radical Edge, which were great as well. I enjoy that. And then, otherwise on culture, I read a lot of sales folks. So I would say, Anthony Iannarino absolutely has some good stuff and he's working on a book actually about leadership. So I really, I learn a lot about that. And I hang out in the sales hacker community and see what happens in the sales leadership space, because it's really important. It's really important because here's the thing, right? Just like, leaders have direct reports, right? Salespeople, they lead that culture movement because often they get funded first. So if you want to see what's coming in leadership, I would encourage you, even if you're not in sales, follow to see what sales is doing, because as they go, as they get funded, as they find success, that's going to just trickle down. So
Yes.
don't, don't think that just because you're not in sales, you shouldn't follow salespeople.
Awesome. That's great advice. Thank you for the time today, Phil.
Sure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Anna.